Hello everyone, welcome to Robotic Process Automation Masterclass. I believe that anyone who is not using RPA yet will hear something useful today. Last year, everyone had to adjust their processes, some more than others. For most, that meant becoming more digital and start using new software, or force employees to use some existing solution that isn't the best, but there was no choice at the moment, right? So I'll try to address some of these issues and these challenges and explain what is our robotic process automation and how can it help. I'll introduce myself. My name is Gatis. I'm an RPA engineer. I have a background in ERP, software development, project and product management, and about 2 years now I've been doing hands-on RPA implementations and research for that as well. Alright, so as this is a longer presentation than regularly, here's a list of the topics that I'll try to cover. There's not a lot of time for all this, so I'll try to speed through them. So the current challenges is the push for digital solutions. Like it or not, that was the situation, and that might have caused more admin tasks or overhead to existing processes, right? And even some struggles with the adaptation of new software or using the unfriendly old software. And the positive side for this is that everything is now digital, and if the information systems are ready to go and the data is electronically stored, then it can be automated, and then you can remove certain parts of the processes and do some tasks automatically and make it easier for the people. Also, teaching robots are a bit easier because they share the same brain, and if you need to add more resources, then that can be done instantly. You don't need to retrain them. Also, they are fine with using bad UI. They are not complaining, they're just doing what they're taught. More about the bots later. Then labor market shrinking. I mentioned this before, and previously before the audio issue, I already showed you the slide. What's happening, the more people are leaving the labor market than they are joining, and that's happening now, today, and in the following years, and that will be the case for the next generation as well. And somebody has to do those tasks, so the solution for that one would be automation and hiring virtual colleagues to do that. Okay, and then the low efficiency. Boring, simple tasks that affect the motivation is always a topic, but now on top of all these, you have the home office issues, and which is kids at home, access to remote tools, security issues regarding the data, etc. And here you can also use the automation to help with at least reducing the mundane tasks for the people at home that they need to do in their systems, and so that they can spend more time on creative and priority tasks, the more value-added tasks. Right, moving on. Have to speed up a little bit as now we're a bit short on time due to that issue. This slide basically shows the age groups in current demographics in Baltics, and as you can see by the highlighted colors, the difference between the incoming and the outgoing numbers. All right, skipping on. Automation can mean many things, and today's topic is the robotic process automation. So RPA is kind of an automation where a software is taught to perform tasks in IT systems and applications. We tend to call this software bots or robots, although they are not the classical robots, the physical ones. It's just software. And they can perform tasks driven by business rules that don't need intuition or creativity.
They're best used for repetitive tasks, and these robots can use IT systems on user interface level, meaning that basically the same computer, same systems that your employees have currently, you can set up another set for the robots and teach tasks in there. Typical use cases would be data transfer, extraction, conversion, manipulation, then of course communication, which would be receiving emails, Teams messages, etc., and then reading incoming email flow and performing certain tasks if something is said in the email or requested of the robot. And the thing here is that those emails that robots would send, it wouldn't be just some simple notifications, reminders, right? They would include data that they have gathered from the ERP or accounting system or somewhere, so to give more meaning and more insight in those communication mails. Okay, then different kind of document and of course report generation. That is a good example, and a lot of people do that. And then of course some kind of file processing, like a new file is added in a network folder somewhere, and then the robot sees that and takes this new information, updates it in some system, and notify someone, etc. I'll mention more examples later on. Okay, the two main types of the robots that there are. First, the attended one. Basically, those are the ones installed on user's computer, and they're running in attended mode. User can initiate certain automation tasks, and then robots perform them using this user's computer, while the human is free to talk with the customer, or chat with a colleague, attend a meeting, or go to lunch, or generate new ideas. And then the attended ones are completely standalone. Those are installed in virtual machines on servers, but they kind of have like the same systems that your normal employees would have. Then these robots would receive task requests from multiple employees, because it's not just on one employee's computer, and they could communicate with multiple employees and do tasks triggered in many different ways. This is an important slide, the benefits of using an RPA solution. So first of all, the productivity, that is hands down the top one, because the tasks are done faster. Robots don't get sidetracked, they don't eat, they didn't get a call from old friend, etc. Bots can calculate the data in the head. They don't need to open like an Excel sheet to copy some report and then pull the sums out of a couple of the columns. They can do it in their head with an algorithm, right? So that takes less time when the process involves a step like that. Then the reliability. Of course, they work 24/7, like whenever the server and the virtual machine is up and running, they are available to do the task. Consistency. Similar tasks are performed similarly when humans do it. Like for example, one person could take the report out of the general ledger module, and the other could take the report out of the sales ledger, or this other module what all the salespeople are working in and stuff, and that could result in different data, right? But robots always do it the same way that they have been taught, following the same rules, and that way you will always get the same result. Quality, of course, there can be some issues with some errors in the systems, etc. But the main part here is that there won't be human errors. Robots will not send an email to the wrong Edgars. Robots will not paste something in the wrong Excel cell, right? And or in some wrong field and somewhere. So the service quality will improve. And low technical barrier, by that I mean pretty much everyone that it understands the process and knows the systems involved, the IT systems involved in the process, they pretty much can make the automation themselves. Of course, coding skills might come in handy when you want to do things a bit more technical way, because you can read the data from the database directly with this tool, or you can open up your user interface of the application and copy the data from there, right? So the low technical approach would mean you reading it from the interface. And of course, the reduction of the cost. First of all, the process is done faster, so that is obviously the process cost is lowered. But if you imagine talented, expensive people who are like the only ones who can access certain information and do some fairly simple task there, wasting their time costs money, and if automation can handle that, it's perfect. And that ties closely to the employee morale as well. Doing non-interesting tasks are eating up the internal motivation and the energy, and talented people have to change the world and move mountains, etc., and they don't want to do these mundane tasks. Also, busy managers can relax a little bit, knowing that for tomorrow's board meeting, the report will be created by the robot during the night and will contain the latest data. Okay, and the rapid return of investment, as the RPA tools become more popular and therefore more accessible, they have become more powerful as well. All this allows the software costs to go a bit down and become more scalable for different kind of businesses. And as they are more advanced and more user-friendly, the implementation tend to be easier and faster than it was years ago. Okay, moving on. Quickly about what Gartner has researched. As you can see in the graph, this is the market share for the previous years and the prediction for current 21st and the next 22nd year. So that's a steady growth and it's not going away. And they're also stating that 85% of the big companies will use RPA by 2022, which is by the end of this year. Also, last year Microsoft added RPA to their Power Platform tools, which means even greater exposure for this automation technology. A little bit more about the tool itself. So we have been working with a couple RPA vendors already, and about a year ago I made an extensive research to find the best solution for our market. And based on this research, I decided to focus heavily on Softomotive's tools, only to find out like a month later that Microsoft had bought them. So they're doing the same research, I guess, that I was, and choosing them as well. And this acquisition filled the missing piece for us to start working more with this Microsoft Power Platform, and because now this the platform that they have already kind of extends the automation tools, the RPA tool, with all those parts around it in the ecosystem. So that's quite powerful. Marsh will talk more about this section in his masterclass after like 20-25 minutes. All right, moving on. So this is I have a short video to demonstrate a simplified example of how to train a robot and how it looks when it does the task by itself. The process is for collecting odometer values, emails sent from employees with the odometer values, and then robot saves them in Excel and then in an accounting system. Right, so what I would do is here I'm showing the graphical email. Usually, of course, it would be done technically at getting the last email data. And this is the editor studio. I just click on record, And now I'm going to use some keyboard shortcuts to navigate into Excel. I want Control F to open the search, paste the value, search for this value, then close the search field, paste some value in the next column, and then tab to the next column and paste the value in there. And then to finish it off, I click File and Save. So that is the process done in Excel with the data from the email. And so what happened now, I finished the recording, and you can see all the steps that have been recorded show up in the software. And you can see escaping, tab, Control V to paste the data, tab to the next one, and Control V. Now if I would click on running, it would do all this task already, but there needs to be some changes to support the dynamic values, so that the data that is pulled from the email is always that data, because when I recorded, I used some sample data, right? Okay, moving on. Jump back to the start, of course. Let's fast forward. This is where I left. Okay, so importing some values, then create some functions that are already available for you to get the last day of the month, and then have a function to get the previous month, to get the last day of the previous month. That can be easily set up so that it happens dynamically. And then at the end, I am including an already made wizard that enters the data in a system. Then just click play, and now watch the robot do it. Search for my email, tabs, pastes value, tabs to the next field, pastes value, then clicks on F and S to save it. And then now this is the system where the fields are populated and saved. So that happened quite fast. As I said, robots do it faster than humans would. So basically, I record steps and modify them where it's needed to use the dynamic values needed for the process. Then click play, and as you saw it already, robot just went and did all those tasks and did it faster than I would do them. All right, moving on to the next part. The example in that video was a fairly simple one, but there are a lot of fairly simple examples in real life as well, but they tend to grow with some exceptions and some additional tasks, because if the robot is doing it, then of course you could add some extra stuff to it to gain more out of it. Usually processes are a bit more complex though, and it might seem challenging on how to find them and identify them, which are the ones to automate. So I'll help you on that one. The first one, of course, is human factor. You have to look at the time employees are spending to do the task, and of course how much employees are involved in the task. And another one is whether during some seasonal spikes or under excessive workload, does it require you to hire new employees to do that task, or ask your current employees to work extra time to do it. Those would be good candidates. And of course, if there's a high percentage of human error in the process, then as well. Next one is how to filter them out, is the complexity of the process itself. So how many steps are in this process, how many applications are in this process. It doesn't mean that long process cannot be automated, but I would suggest you to look at those longer ones in pieces, like split them in parts, and then you could automate part of it and then leave the rest for the people to do it. Then the decision points. If you have like a couple of decision points, which is like business rules, if this number is greater than that, then do this. that is fine. But if you have to do some intuitive or a bit more creative thinking, or like a lot of decision points that needs to be done there, then maybe that's not a good process to be automated. Of course, you can implement some predictive analytics if it's numbers data-based, or even use AI to help this automation robot to get the answer. Or you can use this human-in-the-loop approach where you could pop up a message in some chat to this person saying, this is the situation I'm doing now, what do you think, what's the way to continue? And the person can answer this question, and then it goes back to the robot, and the robot continues based on this input from the user. And of course, if the estimated delivery of this automation looks like a big one, if it's complicated, like the systems are complicated, that has to be used or unfriendly to the automation, then of course maybe it's just not worth doing that. Okay. About the third one, I already mentioned the systems being not friendly. That might be the case in certain applications. You could basically automate any application, but some of them that are not friendly might end up being less stable, and then the robots might run into some errors more frequently than you would want it. Okay. Then again, the process changing. If the process has a lot of changes, or the application is changing, then that needs to be taken into account as well, because you teach certain set of rules for the robot to follow, and if those rules cannot be applied to the new version of the software, or the process has changed a bit, then this has to be adjusted, and based on how fast it needs to be adjusted for each process, how critical it is for the process to happen, like in the following hour, for example. That can be the deciding point as well. But I'm not saying that changing this automation is complicated in certain situations. It could be just clicking on a different link, or taking some data from a different column, and those adjustments can be done in minutes. It's nothing complicated. All right. Here are some more tips in the slide on how to get there, like mapping your processes and data, interviewing employees, getting a full day picture, or even analyzing the data from like log files or your processed orders that are incoming, and then how much time is spent on one and how much orders you have in total, etc. Okay. It helps to think about your own processes by hearing what others have automated already. So here are some examples of processes that we have been automated already. Okay, so the first one, sales orders process, that is, you can have cases when the incoming order is ready made in some system, and you can just send the prepayment invoice already. But in those cases where you need to validate if the items are in the stock, or check the customer outstanding balances, or check the status of their previous orders and invoices, etc., that can be all automated and used done by robot. Then monthly service overview, right? Like gathering data from multiple different sources, like from Jira for the work hours spent, the time spent, or some meter reads, for example, electricity meter reads or the water consumption meter reads, etc. They need to be gathered from different sources and then put into like one ERP system that sends this monthly overview to the customer and an invoice. That is a good task to automate as well. Then, of course, already mentioned the email and Teams communications. One example would be, I think I mentioned it as well, an approval process. One we have done is like either it's some campaign management or purchase order operator management, for example. You could send to the department owner, the head of the department, an email containing the purchase order details, and some department financial details, basically everything he needs to make the decision. And then at the bottom of the email have like an approve and reject buttons. And based on what he presses, he generates a new reply. And then the robot goes and does the approving in the system. The robot goes in the VPN, logs in the ERP system, navigates to the module, opens the register, finds the specific order that is the one in question, and then clicks on the approve button in there in the name of this employee. So instead of doing all that, I can just open up the phone during lunch or sitting at the red light or something, right? And then just click on approve and it's done. Of course, then some other scheduling, notifications, reminders, other software can do that as well. But the thing here is that these would include some crucial data already in there that has been gathered from the systems that you use. And the document generation, that's a big one because a lot of contracts, applications, agreements are done, reports created, a lot of those can be automated and done by robots. And that could help a lot, especially for the customer consultants, like both human and virtual agents. There could be a chatbot talking to a person and receiving some key input data like customer identification information, and then pass it down to the robot, and the robot then enters it in the system, gets some kind of PDF out of it, and sends back to the requester to use and give to the customer or print it out. And then, of course, some invisible side that just improves your service speed and quality. Okay. More examples can be seen in our webpage. Just go and explore. Maybe you'll get inspired and see something similar to yours. Okay, what I want to stress about these robots is that you have to look at them. They're not like a system integration tool. It's basically a virtual coworker, an assistant. So, but they are not. The common topic is that robots are taking our jobs, right? They don't fill a certain position. What they do is they do a specific task, and usually the task that people don't want to do it themselves anyway, and or they shouldn't because it's expensive for a person to do it. Humans can ask this robotic coworker to help in many ways, either by email, chat, or some software menu. Also, processes can be triggered, scheduled by date and time, monitoring some file or some database changes, etc. Even some requests from third-party applications. From my experience, the adaptation is better if you give a name to this robot, give him a profile picture. It needs its own email address and user in your systems. And one more thing about scalability, it is very scalable because robots are restricted by time just like we are, right? They're doing their task and it takes some time. And if one is overcrowded or too busy, you can just add another one and then another one if it's needed, or even a bunch of them to do some handling of big data on a big amount of processes. And the onboarding is very easy because you don't have to train the new robots. You just set up the environment, the systems, the user permissions, and it's ready to go because they share the same brain. All right. A bit more about the potential. Customer in Latvia started in 2018, at the end of 2018. They currently have already 120 processes automated, and those tasks are happening a lot faster than people would do them. So currently about 400 hours a month is what the robots are spending in actual using the systems and doing something. And majority of that is in accounting department, and a lot can be automated. Okay, short on time, I have to skip forward a bit. Okay, this cornerstone for successful RPA implementation, that's an important one, is first it has to be a strategic initiative from the management. Management has to be involved and a strong believer in this technology. for it to succeed, then you need to have like a competence center inside your organization that will plan, manage those implementations, identify, analyze, define processes, and then automate and maintain them. And they'll be the single point for the communication with the service provider as well. And of course, RPA software, we can help you to decide which could be the best one for your case and your systems. And of course, the infrastructure as well. They need those servers, those virtual machines. Okay, now time to read this recap because I have to finish up. Let's open up the Slido. Let's see what you have prepared for me in the question part. Okay, which processes are most easy to be robotized in average big company? I think I covered some of that in the common processes as well. But yeah, just look at the ones that are done a lot of times or take a lot of time to be done. And usually in the accounting department you can find loads of them because there's a lot of bureaucracy involved and some things that just have to be done and doesn't really add value to the business process. What is your favorite RPA process which you have automated? Classic one. You know what? My favorite automation is something I have done privately for myself on the phone. Is not so useful nowadays, but what I used a lot previously is I have a single button that I press. It decides where I am, either it's office or some customer place or somewhere, gets the address, decides, calculates how much time will take to get home, and then it sends an SMS message to my wife saying, okay, he's going to be home around that time. He's starting from this address, and if he won't catch a train on the road, then he'll be home by that time. That's a good one. Use it daily. And how much cost initial RPA solutions? So, as I mentioned already, as they're becoming more popular, the vendors are competing, and you get friendlier prices and more scalable prices. You can start jumping in by having some subscription that is like, I don't know, like 50, 100 euros a month or something, just to get you up and running, and then you can grow with it. And the implementation of a process could take like, I don't know, like a day or 2 days. And for complicated process, it could be like a week or something. But I would say that it is very scalable, and you can start small and reap the benefits already. Okay, what else we have? A bit time left. Can robot perform reading from document function like OCR? There are some built-in tools in basically every RPA tool that you can use to parse the textual information out of the data. But what you need to remember is that OCRing, the reading part, is just one part of this digitization. The other part is giving the meaning to the data that you're reading, right? And this content analytics is the important part. So if it's simple like finding the invoice amount or some specific stuff by keywords or something, you can just use this built-in tool that is in the robot, right? But in the RPA. But if there's something more complicated, then I suggest integrating with a solution that has this content analytics and some AI to it, and give more value and process the data out of it in a higher quality, give more out of it. Okay, that was all from the questions. Thank you very much. Now I have to jump out and give the seat to my colleague. Thank you. Bye.